So it is 3 p.m. I guess we shall get the show on the road here. And if, oops, here's somebody. I'm going to admit. All right. I have to keep my eye on these things. I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. This will be funny. Oh, yeah. Actually, Sabina, you're right there. Oh, there's Jim Fowler. Yeah. I'll let Sabina admit people. Actually, you can use this pad so I can use. Um, that doesn't work. Yeah, never mind. I'll do it. Using two mice on the same computer is not a good idea. But arrows running all over the place. All right, everybody. Let's see. Is somebody at one waiting? Okay. Not anymore. Hi, kitties.
Hi, Kenny.
We're gonna get going here. Now let me prepare you with this. We're having a Nashville type day, which means that there is a big storm brewing outside, and there's lots of rain and thunder and winds, and we're supposed to have heavy lightning storms. So if you see a big flash and I go away, you'll know that's what happened. Hopefully, we won't get another tornado or a power outage or anything fun like that. But we'll roll along here and do what us people in Nashville do. you know. Oh yeah. So everybody, go ahead and mute your microphones, and when we get into the question parts, we'll of course change that up. But just so if your dog starts barking, I don't freak out or whatever might happen in your world. All right. So usually I like to write a few notes to myself, and then just kind of, free flow. But I wrote a thing today because I have COVID mine like everyone else, and I can't even seem to find a box of Cheerios that's 1 foot in front of me. So I thought it would be best if I read today, and I will try to read as if I am, the world's greatest orator, but you'll probably notice that I'm reading. Haha. So anyway, this is just the introduction to the course. Okay. The inspiration for the workshop. Songwriter Land is designed to give you a producer's insight into production with the hope that you will gain some new ways to think about your songwriting that will allow you to write better songs with more purpose and direction. As you can guess by the title of this workshop, it was inspired by the TV series Songland. Now, I don't know if all of you saw it, but it was a songwriting thing where people would pitch to famous people. 3 of them would get producers to produce the songs, and it was really fun. Oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah, you're making it so I can't see what I'm trying to read. That's right. And it was really, I thought it was going to be stupid, another, uh-oh. Are we all still there? So, okay, good. We had a short power outage on this end, but it seems to not have gone out all the way. And we really did enjoy watching it. After all, it was really cool to see producers' insights and how the songs changed. So anyway, that's what that's about. Now, the songs that those writers were writing were for other people, at least in regards to that show. So that was forcing them to write in the style of the famous guests for who they were pitching, lyrically and musically. Here in Nashville, that's a common way for writers to work, as many are specifically writers and not necessarily artists on their own. This is different than the majority of artists that I produce, who are mostly indie artists, and they are indeed writing songs for themselves. Did you get them? Sorry, we're letting people... yeah. Okay, thanks. Let's see, maybe I'm going to move this like that. Oh, then you can't see it. Right, sorry. I need two computer screens. Most of the artists that I work with are, they're artists and they're writing for themselves. So, okay, we have to do something different. That doesn't work for me. Yeah, this is killing. All right. Now I can't find it. Yeah. Okay. um, where was I? Sometimes the artist gives me a lot of freedom, and sometimes they want a lot of control. But the end goal for me is to make sure that the artist is more than satisfied with the end process. So, in that case, I'm working not to necessarily make a hit song for someone specific. I'm working with artists to make their songs happen the way they would like them to. So a little bit about me, just so you know my background. Before I was a producer, I was a musician. More specifically, I started my career as an instrumentalist and played saxophone and guitar. Later, I added flute, bass, vocals, percussion, and all sorts of things like that. And that diversity put me in lots of musical situations, from jazz, rock, and blues to classical to punk, funk, world music, and finally I stumbled upon the world of all you guys, the singer-songwriters. I hadn't been aware quite how many songwriters there were, because I was always just a band geek, right? So songwriting for me started by writing collectively in bands, and despite the diversity of music and personalities, the method of working was generally similar in the band context. There would usually be a principal songwriter or two, and they'd bring their songs to the band. And then we'd all come up with our own parts, mix and match, rearrange stuff until we finally had a complete final version. And we always got to a complete final version because the intention was to perform it and to record it. So during that time, I also got super interested in the recording part of that process. I became so interested, I was hanging out at all the mix sessions, and I asked tons of questions, had my hands all over the gear, and probably drove all those session guys batty. Sorry, we're going to let in a couple more people here. All right, they're in. So in driving those session people batty, I learned quite a bit. Whoop, and okay. Yeah, sorry. This is killing me. All right. Sorry, we're juggling the letting people in and speaking, and my brain only works on one task at a time, so I apologize for that. So what I found out, we need to make this so I can see this the whole time you're letting people in. Yeah. Okay, please. Let's do that. There we go. Okay. All right. So yeah, anyway, what happened when I started hanging out with singer-songwriters is I noticed there was a lot of people that really didn't have band experience at all. They hadn't worked in the way that I'd always worked, which is coming to a completely done song ready to record. And they had the perspective of a lot of singer-songwriters, the Bob Dylans, Joni Mitchells, Simon Garfunkels, Joan Baez, Neil Young, and all those people that generally just played alone with a guitar or a piano, and that was the way they played. And a lot of them had never thought about, well, what does my music sound like produced? And I started meeting people who, yeah, I'd like to do a record, but I don't know what to do with my music. So that is how I started getting the idea to, I play lots of music, I do recording, I can be the band for these people, and I can help them figure out how their songs work. And that was 12 years ago now. And I'm still doing that. So that's about that. Now, this is about you guys. What does it benefit you to know what my job is? Well, here it is. So what would happen is, in the simplest answer, is that it can help you define what your song is or can be, so that you can get to your goal faster and more effectively. In more detail, you can determine what genre you are aiming at, and things like what instrumentation would complement the song to get you toward your chosen genre. Also, you'd be better able to communicate with a producer about your end goals. In the long run, with our current renaissance of music technology, a songwriter can do much more to develop production ideas on their own and is now able to do at least part of the studio work on their own. And as you're all finding out, that's really a good thing in these times. So, if you learn a little bit about this and how to do it at home, you can write some and start learning that sort of thing, because clearly you can't really go out in studios too often. I mean, you can, and there are studios open, but it's sort of a, I don't know, it's a little nerve-wracking to go out to a studio right now and you're trying to be calm and think about the recording process, but you're thinking, wow, who used this microphone last and did they clean it and all that kind of thing. So it's a very good time for you to be learning how to do some of this and to learn a little bit about production. So if I give you some of my insights into how I think about production, maybe you can start doing this for yourselves and you can start to get a better understanding of where your songs can go. And that's the main thing. So that's what I hope you get out of it. It's not water. It's not really so much about me telling you my job is for you to understand it, to apply to your own workflow, because the more you start to learn about the whole process, the better your songs are going to be. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now I'm going to talk about some things to consider production-wise. Put number one is genre. It's a good idea to determine your genre and make sure you consider that genre when you consider instrumentation in your production. Do your lyrics conform to what is popular in that genre? Are the sounds and beats relative to that genre? That said, there is nothing wrong with mixing genres or trying to find a genre that is unique to you. Remember, there are the trendsetters, and then there are always the people that follow, and neither one of those is wrong. It's like, obviously Nirvana came out, and then everybody started to sound like Nirvana. You know what I mean. And now Billie Eilish is out, and everyone's starting to write like Billie Eilish. So, the trendsetters, the ones that do things different, well, they have the biggest successes and the biggest failures. But there's nothing wrong with being on either side of that. Now, number two is the groove and the beat, and I could have put this item as number one. Aside from the lyrics and the vocals, this is the most important piece of production to me, as it's what makes people tap their feet, fall into the abyss, rise into the sky, dance, cry, and headbang. So many people can relate to groove much more than they can even the melody or the lyrics. So that's why that element to me is very important. And we're going to talk about that a bit, because I actually do find that's where most singer-songwriters who have just played by themselves all the time, that's an area they lack in a lot. And when I am working on people's songs and they send me demos, that's where we seem to run into, that's where I run into problems and have to help them out a lot. So groove and beat, super important. My wife, who's sitting here helping me, I remember the first time I recorded her, I tried to record her to a click track, and that was a big no-go. So in fact, for her to even separate her vocal from her guitar was a big no-go in most cases. And so I ended up just sticking a microphone in front of her and going, go. Now, the songs are interesting. If you listen to that album, from where the song starts, by the time it ends, most of them are considerably faster. Now, fortunately, she had a good feel, so it worked out okay. But feel is so important. It's really, really important. She's all improved now. She plays to click tracks and and everything. Dynamics. This is an area a lot of singer-songwriters fail to deal with. Many play the song at one volume from the beginning to end. I know a lot of that has to do with playing in noisy venues and trying to be heard. But the rise and fall of volume and texture is really what makes a song engaging. Tension, release, contrast, opposites, the things that make all art interesting. When writing, take that extra step to imagine where the song comes big, where it shrinks back down. Think about all these things as you're writing your song, and later you'll start to imagine, I can hear the drums and the bass or whatever instruments are in there, I can hear this is where they would come, and you'll start to be able to imagine that stuff. Instrumentation and color. If you've determined the song form, that your lyrics are the way you want them, and that the form and dynamics are right, then it's time to start to consider what tools to use to take your song from being a sketch to a painting. And that's how I look at a demo. That's the sketch, and then the final version is the painting. What will you use to create color and depth? What will you use to make it in the genre that you want? Do you want the band to sound full? Do you want it small and intimate? Do you want something that just supports the lyrics in a bare bones way? Do you want it epic so it can be in a movie? Once you start to decide these things, then listen to things that you're trying to emulate. If you want your stuff to sound very cinematic, listen to artists who do who have stuff in movies. Listen to why it made it in the movie. Listen to the instruments. Listen to the form of the song. Listen to the colors. Listen to the dynamics. All right, and then again, we have the setting trends are following. People like Woody Guthrie, Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, Sex Pistols, PJ Harvey, Nirvana, Alanis Morissette, Tom Waits, Billie Eilish. These are people who, they took risks, and they brought new sounds and new ideas into music. And then many people started following that, because if that's a trend, obviously there's the followers. And as I said before, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being either. There is success doing both. So you got to decide what you want to do. Do you want your music to sound like other people's? Or do you want your music to sound different and have things that make it stand out? And then lastly here, I would say consider your role in the production. And this one can be taken on a number of levels. This is the part, or is the part that you are currently playing, that is the instrumental part you came up with for your vocals. Is that going to be in the final production, or is it just representing a sketch of what the other parts will do, rhythmically and harmonically? Will your part be watered down, or will it be a major part of the thing that all the other stuff fits around? These are things that don't get thought about much when one's writing a song alone in their studio, but it's a thing to start thinking about. It's like, is my guitar part is that going to be the center of this song, or is it just a means to sketch out the song pre-production? Okay. So your role in production also means preparing to be part of the recording process. That means when you determine what your part will be, remember to start thinking of it in terms of being placed under a microscope. Prepare for it to be recorded and iron out all the details. Know it inside out, backward and forward. This is even more true for vocals, as the vocals are the very face of the song. Know every syllable, every note, every rhythm, every nuance, and etc. And so what I mean by this is, what I notice with a lot of singers is they know the main notes and they got the melody pretty good, but once, I can see this when I'm working with, I don't use auto-tune, I use Melodyne, but I can see, okay, so you knew the main notes, but you weren't quite sure what all these passing tones were. And so when I'm working on a vocal for recording, a lot of times I'll go, I'm just kind of swooping from this note to that note. I haven't actually determined every little detail. Am I singing within the scale? Is there a jump? So with all your parts, both your instrumentals and your singing, just really try to understand, really force yourself to make sure you're finished, so that even when you make your demo, you're sending it out, and if I hear it, I have a super clear idea of your rhythms, of everything, because that definitely helps when you get to the final production process, that all is understood. Okay, so I'm going to drink a little more water. How's our storm doing outside? Hang on. Okay, it looks like some of the big stuff passed. That's good. All right. I wasn't hearing major lightning anymore, so well, I wasn't hearing lightning, it was thunder, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so we have some songs that we're going to dig into here, and I'm going to They were sent to me, and they're just demos, which is what I asked for, so that we can talk about the possibilities of those songs. So, the first song we are going to listen to is Annie Hendricks' song that she sent in. So, I have the Pro Tools session here, and whoops, there's some big thunder. Yeah, I'm going to share the screen. So, I mean, it's not that exciting to see, but it is actually slightly more exciting than my face. So, let's see. I have it this sort of crunched up. I don't have the share screen button showing. There it is. Okay. So, yes. And share. Yeah, so I am sharing my screen, it says. Can somebody nod and confirm that you see my screen? Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, you can even turn on a microphone for that if you want. Say, yes, we can see your screen. So, like I said, it's not that exciting to see, but I'm going to play the first verse of this song. And then if you can hear it pretty well, give me one of these.
How did it get late so soon?
I see thumbs up. Good.
Days gone by and straight to bed. I left so much unsettled, so much unsaid. I must have dozed a little while I hung my heavy head. How did it get so late, so soon?
Okay, so hang on, I need this.
How did it get late so soon?
Okay, so that was the first. This song is a little different form than other songs. It's just AABA, which there's Annie. Hi. You can turn your mic on because I'll probably ask you questions and talk to you.
Okay,
I think. Yeah. Can you do what? Oh, I don't know where that is. That's a good question. We're missing the panel where we let people in. Too many things going on this screen. Yeah, that's all right. So this song, like I said, it's written as an AABA rather than verse chorus kind of thing, which is more a jazz thing. And I don't know if you noticed the chords, but they sound a little bit jazzy in the, let's see, I think it was just and then so that's and the verses are mostly that. The second half of the verse changes from the first half, and then the B part, as I recall, this is my memory, was those. And then I couldn't hear the last chord, but I'm assuming it was this because it goes back to this. So,
yes,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you kind of fluffed that a little bit. So
pretty straightforward harmony.
yeah. So now I was curious what your music was like because I heard about 4 different possibilities for this song, this kind of a song, and so I decided to stalk you a little bit, and I found your website that had your 3 songs on it, and I was like, well, that's awesome because
cool.
that was one of the ways I was thinking. I do have your website up, although my wife's using the mouse right now to. I know we can't find you. Yeah. Anyway.
Lost in the other.
Yeah, we lost everybody. I can't see you either, which is there. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Yep, there's 2 people waiting to get in. Here they are. Sorry about that. No, I can't see any either. But anyway, I listened to the song first, and my first thought was, well, it's got a little bit of a jazzy vibe to it. And it has a little bit of an old timey vibe to it. And then when I saw what you're up to with fiddles and stuff, I go, okay, well, that explains the old timey vibe.
Yeah.
And what I enjoyed about the songs that you had up on your site was that they had these weird electronic noises interjected, and I'm like, yeah, that is a cool approach because it wasn't just straight up. So I had heard sort of an experimental approach being applied to this because it almost has this old nostalgic vibe to it. So I was thinking it could have almost like weird crackles and stuff like from a time in the past, like watching an old TV or listening to an old phonograph. It could be like that. So I
An old
talked
Willie Nelson record.
absolutely. So I tossed in a few super fast ideas. These are not worked out at all, but just some stuff so you can see how I start to think about things. On this next verse, I I saw that you guys like saxophones and horns too, so I put this in. But
How did it get late so soon? Golden hour so sweet and sad, recalls the golden years and all the good times we had. I hope
so that was one idea for a texture that could be there. It had that old kind of almost big band vibe, and of course, you know, I might add more horns in there and things like that. Then on the next verse, I thought, well, what about something like this?
did it get late so soon? Days gone by, straight to bed. I left.
So that's the with the pizzicato strings and some like textures that have weird noise in them, like this. So yeah, anyway,
Ooh.
yeah, so you see there's a lot of ways to go. In fact, I imported one of my wife's songs in here, which has that sort of a vibe, and I'll play you a little bit of that.
Before I met you, I was cool. Believe it or not.
So that kind of a vibe that's more ethereal, and of course that song moves up
You
to
would have wanted me then. Before I met you, I was a fool.
anyway, and it keeps growing and growing. So that was you know, something along those lines I had. And again, you know, I even heard something jazzy like with could have marimba, or not marimba, but vibraphone rather.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways that could go. So if I were working with you on this song, I would of course run all these ideas by you and say, what do you think? And then between us we could get a starting point. But these are things you may have thought of, so that's where I want to ask you, had you thought of what you would maybe want this song to be at some point?
I haven't thought much beyond what inspired it, I think, which is just kind of older Willie Nelson kind of recordings where he's going for that that Nashville sound, which kind of is, you know, with the string pads and
Right.
the horn pads and that kind of 12/8, you know, pizzicato string stuff going on.
Absolutely. And you play strings, right?
A little, yeah. Yeah, I started as an adult, so I'm kind of a hack. I'm originally a sax player as well. So,
Okay, so yeah, that's why. I mean, the sax had come to my head before I saw pictures of you playing saxophone. So
yeah.
I was like, oh well, perfect. You know, she could probably relate to that. That's
I
not.
love that, yeah.
It can't have all those elements too, or a combination of things. A lot of times with songs like this, I like to build them up from the beginning, which may be just your voice and a single instrument, whether that guitar part gets played on pizzicato strings or whether it gets played, on your guitar like it can be anything along those lines. Or it could be just that weird little pad that I played you and your voice.
Mm.
And then maybe next time the strings come in on the second A part. And then maybe on that bigger bridge, which is kind of where the song grows a little bit, maybe that's where horns add in. Um, like I said, with the production on your other songs, in fact, let's see, I think I want to play them for other people that are unfamiliar. Yeah, like this siren song was fun for me. This might be loud, and I'm sorry. There's no volume on her website.
Sorry. I blame Bandzoogle.
There you go. So here are all these cool electronic decaying sounds. I love stuff like that. Now, obviously, that's way too creepy for this sweet song. I'm guessing somebody drowns or something in that particular song, or I'm not sure, but I listened quickly and I'm like, I like stuff like that. We could, do things, or I would consider putting in atmospheric sounds, weird electronic sounds. I like that kind of thing. It gives more dimension, and that's the kind of thing that starts to make a song more cinematic sounding to me as well. And I'm always looking to make the music something that somebody might like to use in a movie, because that's a good way for musicians to make money these days. So I like to make sure the music part stands on its own as a nice piece of music, because a lot of times they'll pull the lyrics out and use the music and then just toss the words in somewhere way down the line. So when you guys think of production, consider that, because getting your stuff in TV shows, film, and all that is kind of one of the better things that musicians can do these days. So thinking in terms of producing it to sound like it belongs there. Now, that's not to say there aren't songs and TV shows that are just a guitar and a voice too. There certainly are. I hear those all the time. So that's some things I would consider on this song. Jazzy maybe, a little bit ambient maybe. Pretty and almost cute, obviously, which is slightly jazzy, but with those pizzicato type violins thrown in there, it starts to get almost old Hollywood or something like that, which is cool. And it looks like you like a lot of old time music too, right?
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're taking old time music. Some of your other songs had more of that vibe than that piece I played. But I like that you're taking old time music and bringing in more modern stuff. I am really a fan of juxtaposing style.
Thank you.
So anyway, I this song, at first I wasn't sure. There's some areas where I wanted to talk about the demo, because there were some timing things, and I wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't always clear what you meant rhythmically in some places. So
Yeah. This
yeah.
is literally the recording I made right after I finished writing the song. I
Yeah.
wrote the song in maybe an hour. And so I
Awesome.
apologize for that.
Oh, no problem. I just, it actually helps me bring up that point about what I would do with this. I would, just have this discussion with you about how we might, enhance your song. And then I say, okay, so now that we have a plan, go back and redo me a demo that's, a little more defined, so that I know you understand all your vocal places. And mostly for me, because when I work this screen here that you're seeing, this is how I work. What I did is, obviously your song was not in perfect time, so you can see all these little cuts in it, right?
Yes.
And what
Yeah.
I did was just move it around until it fit on the grid, basically. And this is what I do when I work with everyone, pretty much. I take their demo. Some of them are kind, and they do their demos for me, like in GarageBand, to a click track, so that they just tell me the tempo and everything right in, right? And in the case of a lot of them, though, they're just done on a phone, and that's fine as long as I can tell what's going on. I can move stuff like this around. It's fine. I don't mind that. But there were some areas in here that I wasn't even quite clear. Is that supposed to be an odd time measure? I'm not sure. And I deduced when I heard the next A section, no, it wasn't. It was just I forgot my word and paused there for a second kind of a situation, and that's fine. So, in fact, it helps me bring up that great point about how do you send your demos to a producer, and I think this is fine, but I would, as I said, I would send back to you for a redo once we discussed it. It gives me totally enough to start to contemplate. But then what I'd say, so here's what I would like you to do. Your homework for the next week would be to practice this to a metronome, and decide what tempo you like, And if it's going to move in tempo, that is actually okay too. I'm not one who necessarily uses solid tempos. In fact, I've started to do more dynamic tempos, like where choruses are. I'm like feeling like the chorus needs to pick up, so I'll speed up choruses. I'll put in slowdowns and all that kind of thing, if that's what the music calls for. But why do I like a grid? Well, because when I produce, then if I do have to do edits, it's if you don't have a grid, it gets difficult. But I would rather go to the trouble of making a grid that moves around in time and have that for editing's sake. But so I always ask people before they start to do their song, just sit down with a metronome or a click track, or if you hate the metronome, and you have GarageBand, just scoop out a drum beat. And in fact, when I record people now, I used to have them record and then I'd build around their part. I don't do that anymore. I get them to send me a demo, even if it's rough, and I start to build a track for them because it goes so much faster. It's like it's all right there for them. The feel is now built in, the tempo is built in, and I've found that people, that used to struggle in the studio, they're like, wow, this is cool. I'm just playing along with my band. And it's way cooler than playing to this. Whoops, no click, but, yeah, that's really difficult. I'd rather play to this. As simple as that drum beat is, it gives me something nice to play to, right? Wrong chord, I know, but here we go. Anyway, it's so much easier to play to a beat. Now, the other thing I wondered about this song is the speed. Would this be a song that would be worth speeding up? Maybe, but again, it has a dreamy quality. It's not terribly long. It's only a little over 2 minutes long, I think. So, maybe keeping it slow and dreamy is exactly what to do. But that's the kind of stuff I would consider when producing a song. So I hope that helps all of you understand, maybe start to think about what instruments are in my song. What does it want to sound like? Even use adjectives to describe it. Go 1930s, man, whatever it may be. The people that get the best results often will send me a song that's a reference. Now, some people send me a song that's a bird when their song is a rabbit. That's a problem. But as long as they're both birds, they're similar enough, then I can glean from it, okay, I get what you're after. So consider that when writing a song too. It's like, is there something that exists that I want to use as a roadmap for my song? Okay? So we're going to move on to a different song.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenny.
Oh, thank you. And this song is John's. So, John, you can unmute yourself and we can chat.
All right.
All right. Let's see. Are you still seeing my screen, everybody? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So you see the song. Here's your song. So now your song, stylistically, it told me kind of what it was already. It was like, all right, it's, pretty much a straight folk song. I'm going to play a little piece of it. Now there's a big gap here because I wasn't sure what your timing was supposed to be
I
there.
know I shouldn't call your name, 'cause it will only bring me shame. I should be glad you're gone, but just the same, I know I shouldn't call your name.
Anyway, so that song pretty much tells you the style it's in already. It's unlike on Annie's song, which could have been a lot of different styles. This one has kind of a vibe already. So my question becomes, do you want it to be really stripped down? I mean, it could stand alone as guitar and vocal. Now, if you want to expand it into, something like a small band, that would be a way I would see doing it. I don't really see a lot of different ways to do it. I just tossed in a drum beat here to show you what I mean.
I call out to that swinging door, words unheard and uncared for. My broken heart can't take it anymore. I call out to.
Anyway, that's just a quick loop I put in. It had what I did was I chose the kick drum to match what your guitar rhythm is. In this case, it was doom dun doom 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 doom. So that's what the kick's doing. And I wouldn't do anything much more than that. It's sort of like what Neil Young drummer might have played. Just a simple. I'm just going to be back here in the background. And then, of course, to that, I would add bass, and my question would be upright bass or electric bass, and that depends the vibe. If it were more a Neil Young vibe, I might go with an old precision bass or, an electric bass type of thing. If you wanted it more folky, I might go with an upright bass.
Right.
And then I might, your song, I believe, is capoed here, right? Probably on the first fret.
Actually, I've got it. My guitar's tuned down. Mine's tuned down.
Okay.
So it's,
So now there was an interesting thing in that when I first heard it, I didn't understand the beats. I thought there was an odd time measure in it, and I'll show you what I mean. It's right here.
No, I should.
Oh, actually,
No, I should.
I'm gonna use the second verse because I chopped it in a weird way in the first verse, not understanding what you were doing at first. So.
I call out to that.
So you go, I call, and that's actually on beat 2. The word call, and I kept thinking that felt like it wanted to be on beat 1. So in this case, I might make them exception. Here, let me play it for y'all. Here it comes. 2.
I call out to that swinging door, words unheard and uncared for.
And then right there, when it switches to that's where I start to understand the beat better. So what I might do is put the big word on the one beat. So 2, 3. I call out for my na-na, and then the break here. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Right? Because to me, I can feel that better. So it's I call out. Na-na-na. Now your break is there. So I might consider that, because for me, that little change of moving that first accent to the 1 instead of the 2, for whatever reason, makes me feel the groove better. And one thing I like to do in music is make sure that the intent and the feel is completely understood. I mean, people will get it, but they'll get it better if you consider like how your beats are and things like that. So that was one thing. And of course, once I put the drums in, it didn't matter as much in a way. Here it is with the drum.
I call out to that swinging door,
because you can hear
words unheard and uncared.
Yeah, you can hear because the snare is hitting the 2, and so but when I heard it just by itself, it confused me until I figured out what you were doing. And I think it's great when you have a demo that doesn't confuse, that's super clear. And in fact, I finally figured it out by listening to your guitar pattern. I'm like, I see. But the vocal kept making me feel like the beat was turned around a little bit.
Yeah, I actually like to push to either anticipate or whatever the opposite of anticipating with vocals. I like to play around with that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
anti-anticipate.
but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and what was interesting is that, well, not interesting. The way I did it, the first one's more obvious, but then the second one does wait. But at least the first one sort of established. So, a cola, da, 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 and now you wait here. Da, na, 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 yeah, right? So,
Right.
so the second part's the same, but the first part, and again, this is, this if you decided you don't like it that way, that's also fine, because once I understand what's going on, I could take it either way. That was just something I might toss at you, and you could go, "Ooh, I like that," or you could go, "Yeah, nah." But something to consider. Now, the other thing, this song was, I thought it might benefit from speeding up a little bit. So it's at 120 now.
That's interesting. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's well, I sort of felt it was fast, but that's all right.
Oh, did you? Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
going to speed it up for you just so you
Well,
can hear it.
I'll say I thought it was a little fast, but at the same time, other people often think that when I perform it, when I play it, that I need to speed it up. So,
All right.
it's familiar.
Okay, so here it is sped up from 120 to 125. In fact, here I'll start.
I call out to that swinging door, words unheard and uncared for, my broken heart.
So for me, that just makes me kind of swing into it a little better. But again, that's another place you could say, well, it's supposed to be slow, so bite me. That's fine too. In fact, sometimes what I like to do with even my own songs is I like to see how slow they could be and how fast they could be, and then figure out from there. So just for giggles, I'm going to go up to 130 and see if that sounds ridiculous. I have it so that everything's changing here.
I call out to that swinging door, words unheard and uncared for, my broken heart.
That feels a little rushed now. So, well, maybe not to everyone, and maybe if you got used to it, it would be great. But this is a thing I like to do, is set your metronome at different places when you're practicing with your metronome, which you will now, right? Yes. Everybody should do that. I totally recommend it. But switch that speed around and, see what it, and also switch the key around. I'm always moving the capo around, like, I think your voice sounds right in that range, but for me, I might like it higher. And who knows, maybe if you moved it up a half step, you'd go, ooh, that feels better. For me, one beat of difference is huge sometimes. One beat per minute difference can make a huge difference to me in how a song feels. And a half step in key change can make a huge difference too. And these are good things to play with. So let me ask you, John, what did you imagine if you were going to have this song produced? Did you have any thoughts on it?
Well, okay, without going into a really long story, it's actually an old song, and I've recorded it here at home in an older version. I've actually rewritten it since then as well, and it was a little faster, and this happens to me all the time. When I start adding drums and adding a bass and add another guitar, it starts turning into an entirely different song.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's fun to go with that and see where it goes, because sometimes it takes you places that you never thought you could go. But when I rewrote it, that's when I sort of pared it down.
Mm-hmm.
And slowed it down a little bit, and I guess now I'm comfortable with it pared down and slowed down, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm not sure where I want it to go.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, those, like I said, I was thinking either, it could be super stripped down, like just your guitar and vocal with maybe a harmony here and there. and maybe even just with like a simple steel guitar part if you want it to have a little more country feel, or maybe with a super simple piano part. A lot of times, if I don't really want to overproduce or change it too much, but I still want to give it some depth, I might put some sort of ambient instrument in there back behind the guitar to sort of make it feel a little deeper, but not really change the overall vibe of it. So that's one way. But of course, I'm a big fan of beats and drums. So, if I were going to do it, I might try to sway you to let the drummer come in at some point. In fact, this kind of song, maybe I'd let the first verse and chorus go with just the guitar and vocal, and then sneak in the bass or the drums a little bit, and just build it up slowly. In fact, I'm a big fan of what I call the triangle shaped song. They start small and they grow to the end, usually with a dip in there somewhere, like a little bridge piece that drops low, just so that last chorus can be ultra big and that kind of thing. But that's more of a concept than.
I think that's a lot. I think that's very much where I see myself going with my next version of producing this is doing exactly that, starting out simple, adding in a bass, adding in drums, and yeah, try to figure out what would really punch it up at the end.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the way I go. At this point, I think I would like to open up to questions. So I'm not quite sure how to do that in a fashion that's not chaos. Sabina, you have any suggestions? Oh, I'm going to unshare. Oh, you did unshare my screen, right? Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Kenny, we've done this before where people basically put their names in the chat and say, I'll ask a question first, and someone says, I go after them, I go after them.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. So, well, let's see. Do we see the chat area? There it is. Okay. All right, so, we do have some questions already. So, Kenny, what program are you using? I am using Pro Tools. Oh, somebody answered that question for you. Okay, there you go. Pro Tools. Now, I think Logic is great too. I use Pro Tools because I started on it 20 years ago. And it's familiar to me. They've changed it in really reasonable ways over the year. When I get to Logic, I do open it up once in a while and I play in it until I start to understand it. But right now it's very not logical to me, Logic that is. All right. Let's see. Metronome it is, yes. So KC has a question.
Quickly, when you work with somebody, a singer-songwriter, to produce their song or to make a quality demo, do you want them to put it in Ableton Live or Pro Tools or GarageBand or something and send you the separate tracks that they can do at home? Or do you like to just have something really simple and basic and then you let your imagination come
the more you can send me, the better I like it. If you have the ability to record stuff in a program to, on a grid and stuff, yeah, I would love that. In fact, what a lot of people do is they, some people now have moved to Logic, but they don't know all the functions of exporting, so they just send me their Logic sessions and I do all that for them, and that's fine too. But I don't have Ableton, so that wouldn't happen. But yeah, I do prefer when people separate the tracks out too. In other words, they give me a separate guitar or vocal because I start to construct around their parts, and at some point maybe I want that guitar out and I just want to hear the vocal, so that gives me the flexibility to do that. Who was next? Priscilla.
Hi there.
Hi.
Actually, a couple of questions. So one is, how do you make an album sort of sound the same, like one piece, one work without it sounding on the same, and then also the opposite? How do you also make it not sound all over the place? And then also, sorry, I have another follow-up question: is how do you also know when to stop adding to a song?
Those are all really great questions. Let's see. I think we're going to extend this meeting if you want me to. I don't care. I mean, I'm just sitting here watching the storm blow. Oh, I can't. Never mind. It'll end on me. So the answer to that question is, usually a singer's voice is going to kind of connect the songs, as long as they're not wildly all over the place. Like, here's my folk song, and next we're going to reggae. Yay. As long as there's sort of consistency in that vocal, and in fact, what I notice is some people, they write a lot the same. So when I produce an album and I know it's going to be an album, I try to think of different sounds to differentiate the songs a little bit. It's like, okay, well, we used the guitar in this one, maybe we should do piano or some sort of more ambient texture in this, or organ or some other instruments in the next one, just to give it a little different. So it's sort of, I get the songs that want to be on the album, and then I try to figure out, are they really different and I need to now bring them together, or are they really the same and I need to, but that's one thing that I would help you with, or a producer should help with. What was the other question?
Oh, like, how do you know when to stop adding to
Well, how do you know when to stop adding? Well, that's a good question. I mean, I work with a few people that absolutely do not know when to stop adding, because, some of the people I work with, they make a lot of their own parts, and they're like, oh, I came up with these other two guitar parts, and I'm thinking, oh, you mean the four that were there already are, but if they want them, I'll try to figure out how to squeeze them in, and I may try to talk them out of it too. It's hard to say. I mean, some music that I like is pretty dense. I'm getting to a point, maybe because I'm getting older, I like to hear a little more space around things now. I don't like them so dense. I think it's a matter of feel for that song, really. As you start to add things, if something's rubbing, if something still doesn't feel right to you, well, what is that? And sometimes it becomes the main instrument that you put in there needs to go. It was what you wrote the thing around. But Sabine and I have done that a lot, where our guitar parts go away. It's like, it sounds really great when we mute the guitars and just all the extra stuff we added is there. So you have to be real open-minded to, don't get your heart too locked into everything. Be open to change, I think. But I think it's a matter of, when does it feel like it's working? If I know that's a weird answer and it's not specific, but that's what it is for me. You start to feel when it's good.
Cool, thank you.
Who? Jim. Hi. Oh, privately. Gotcha. All right. Well, you can email me or message me if you want. Then, let's see. How about? Did you want to ask the question, or did you want to just text me?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have okay, bottom line is, my songs are story songs, guitar and voice. I can add ear candy to it, as a friend of mine once called it. I've always had this kind of puritanical view that, I shouldn't have any digital recordings added, like a piano or a drum or something. I don't know. What do you think? Yes,
I say poop to that. I say anything that works. And in fact, I love the juxtaposition. I mean, I've even gotten to the point where I always hated digital drums, but man, sometimes I really dig them in like a bridge, when the big regular drum kit kicks out and it goes down to some weird electronic beat. I'm getting more and more into the fun stuff like that. It's like, well, you can, so why not? So yeah, I say whatever happens.
So you're saying poop to the purest view that can only be like.
Yeah,
poop to?
I'm saying poop to the purest view.
Okay,
yes.
Good. That's what I'm at.
That's right. I have nothing wrong with the purest view, and if the song warrants it, like John's song did, I would be pretty pure at that. I wouldn't be trying to sneak in break beats or anything funky in that one. Whereas with Annie's song, I would be thinking, oh, we can get away with some really cool electronic stuff, especially knowing that she's done that and likes that. So that's, I kind of determine what the song is. If it's straight up Americana or country song, no, I wouldn't do that. But if the song is open to having weirdness in electronics, for sure. La Riva?
Hi, Kenny.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I took a look at your bio, and it says that you work out of Nashville and the
I,
Bay Area.
I do. I'm in Nashville. That's where we live now. I lived my whole life in the Bay Area, and before the plague came, I would be in the Bay Area every 2 months for about 3 weeks. So now I'm actually probably going to start. What I'm doing, and I still mostly work with a lot of Bay Area people, but they now have to get me their vocal recordings instead of me going into a studio with them. So that means I either send them to my couple studios I know out there, or now people are learning how to do it, and I'm super open to having one-on-one Zooms with people to help them set up a reasonable recording studio, because this is the time to be doing that. And you say, well, why would you do that? Well, because it makes work for me too. If you want to record songs and you feel like this is the time I learn how to do some stuff on my own, I will help. So but once the plague dies down, if it does, then I will be back out to California, but I'm not getting on a plane right now.
Okay, so the fact that we now have all these opportunities to use technology means that it really doesn't matter where you are, because you can help us anywhere you are if we want to work with you.
And it never did matter. In fact, I have some clients I work with. I have some in Africa. I've never met them, never even seen their face on Zoom or anything. I've had people in England I've worked with. I've always had people in other states I work with. So I've been doing this for 12 years where people are never in the same room with me. They have the ability to record, and they just send me their parts, and I toss them an MP3. Are you liking this? Yeah, change this. Okay. How's this? Yep. And I've worked like that a lot, so this is nothing new to me. In fact, people ask what's changed. I go, not a lot, except I don't go to California anymore. A lot of people liked me in the studio because I kind of make them lighten up and joke around with them and all that sort of thing. Now they're a little more on their own. And the guy I send them to, he's great, but he is not a jokester. He's just very quiet. So some people are like, okay, I'm gonna miss. I'll go on a Zoom meeting at the studio if you want to. So. That's fine, but yeah. So this is not changing the way I work all that much. And usually when I go to California, I collect vocals, guitars, piano, whatever I can in the studio. But the rest is all done here in Nashville anyway. So the only thing I'm really doing is collecting people's vocals and guitar parts, and being there as a cheerleader for them in the studio.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to put my email down, and if you guys want to send me questions, because you need to get on to your next thing, I will answer your questions. So here, can I, I'm going to just put, is it just sending it to Jim? Let's find out. You guys will tell me if you see my email there. Did it show up?
Can you message it for everybody?
Oh, it's just to Jim. You're right.
Out to everybody.
I'll send it out to everybody.
Oh yeah, send it out to everybody, and you guys feel free to send me questions that didn't get answered, because I think I blabbed too much, and I should have left you more time for questions. I thought it might run short, but I was wrong. No, I'm a big mouth. Sorry, but go ahead and send me your questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Everybody got the email, the chat.
Okay, good. Yeah, so if you have any more to ask, I am happy to, because, while I'm not flying to California, I have time to answer emails now.
Kenny's, send some rain without the lightning to California. Okay?
Yeah, no kidding. I was just thinking when it started pouring a bit ago, I'm like, why can't this be in California? We're all green and happy here, and you poor guys, I am so sorry about that. Just craziness you guys are dealing with. So I hope you're holding up all right, because that's just crazy on top of crazy. So, yeah.
I'm going to buzz off. Everybody else, but thanks for your time and energy. I really got a lot from just listening to you talk about the process, and I think it opened up some things for me.
Absolutely. Sorry the beginning was a little rough with trying to figure out how to work the screen and add people while trying to concentrate. I'm not, like I said, I don't chew gum and walk well at the same time, so that was a little challenging for me. But anyway, thank you for all coming, and I hope the rest of your day is awesome. Woo!
Thank you, Kenny.
Awesome. Thank you so much.